And that's why it gets sideways sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, it gets a little fumbly sometimes. But what I'm saying is that what she did was like a pro. She did that like a pro.
Yeah.
That's where it gets dangerous.
Having previously triggered Donald Trump by claiming Vice President Harris would win the election and indicating preference for RFK Jr. over Trump or Harris, the world's biggest podcaster, Joe Rogan, just dropped another brutal bombshell on Donald Trump by publicly celebrating Vice President Harris's public speeches and claiming that Donald Trump needs to seek professional help to raise his public speaking game. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, as you know, because we've talked about it in previous videos, Donald Trump is not happy with Joe Rogan, the world's biggest podcaster, who it should be reminded, we should remind people that Joe Rogan is relatively conservative and he has repeatedly publicly indicated support and sympathy for Trump in the past. But here lately, things have not been going well between Trump and Rogan in terms of that relationship. And I want to play a very recent clip of Rogan celebrating Vice President Kamala Harris, a person whom I never thought Rogan would ever celebrate. And again, going so far as to rub salt in the wound by saying that Trump really needs to step up his game with respect to public speaking and might even need to hire people to help him do it.
Crushed it.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's a problem. And I don't think they thought she was going to be able to do that. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You can fucking coach somebody, bro. It ain't hard. I mean, maybe she just practiced.
Who are these coaches? Just public speakers and stuff?
Oh, yeah, public speaking coaches. Yeah, there's political speech analysts. There's people that
imagine if there's
teach
comedians.
people how
what
to
if David
teach.
Lucas gets hired to give her like some one-liners?
Listen.
I mean, there's a crazy world where there's shit like that, where there's somebody goes, you need a couple zingers in your back pocket. I don't know.
100%.
Because if that's not your world and your brain doesn't operate like that, Trump's does. Trump is looking at like, you know, to make a little put down or he's just quick in that way.
Listen,
so
he is quick in that way. Also, it would behoove him to hire a few great comics to just tour with him and just write one-liners about all these different fucking people.
I mean,
if he could remember them, I mean, I know he likes to go off his own head, but if he could remember a few Hinchcliffe bangers, if he hires Hinchcliffe to take him on the road, do you know how fucking insane that would be?
Yeah, dude.
Hinchcliffe writing bangers for Trump to shit on people with?
Comedy cures, and it also is like sometimes what kind of just pushes things over the top,
The thing you're getting from him is no one is coaching him. Right, you know he's going off the cuff. You know nobody gets to tell him what to do. When he goes out there and he talks about things, it's like he's just off the cuff, and that's why it gets sideways sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, it gets a little fumbly sometimes. But what I'm saying is that what she did was like a pro. She did that like a pro.
Yeah.
That's where it gets dangerous. Because
you don't think that was calculated? You think that was off the cuff, like just responding to what was... Yeah.
No, that was a 100% planned out thing.
Yeah.
100% and well executed.
Yeah.
Like she fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
Ouch. That has to hurt. That is absolutely gonna hurt Donald Trump's feelings. Okay. And just as a refresher, right? These are previous statements that Joe Rogan has recently made about the state of the 2024 election.
And
I don't know
goes
what
on these rambles that it's
I don't
indicative of certain anti-anxiety medication. I do not know if this is true. See if you can find that, because really that shouldn't say that about our future president.
Yeah, our future. Yeah,
she's gonna win.
No, she's not.
She can win.
So that is Rogan again to a almost certainly more Trump sympathetic audience than a Harris sympathetic audience. The world's biggest podcast, to the face of Michael Malice, a Fox News conservative contributor. He believes Vice President Harris is going to win. He also said recently that he prefers RFK Jr. to either the vice president or Donald Trump.
That's just what they do. That's politics. They do it on the left. They do it on the right. They gaslight you. They manipulate you. They promote narratives. And the only one who's not doing that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
You a fan?
Yeah, I am a fan. Yeah, he's the only one that makes sense to me. He's the only one that he doesn't attack people. He attacks actions and ideas, but he's much more reasonable and intelligent. I mean, the guy was in.
So, again, it's not like Joe Rogan is some sort of like dyed-in-the-wool progressive, right? He's probably more right-wing now than he's ever been. RFK Jr. is a conservative pick by most measures, and RFK Jr. And Donald Trump and their campaigns have an incestuous relationship, right? So again, nothing really to freak out about, but MAGA freaked out about it all the same because Rogan wasn't saying that he wasn't celebrating Trump's intelligence, right? That first clip that we played, the most recent one, he seems to suggest that Donald Trump is indeed prone to gaffes and quote unquote senior moments, another indicator of his cognitive decline, which we've talked about recently, which is reflected in the polls. A majority of Americans believe that he is mentally unfit to be president. He's too old to be president. He's too mentally and physically unhealthy to be president. In stark contrast to Vice President Harris. Despite this, Joe Rogan felt the need to go out of his way to be like, hey, I'm not endorsing RFK Jr. Jesus, chill, calm down. And Donald Trump didn't take it particularly well. So in response to this, he said, it would be interesting to see how loudly Joe Rogan gets booed the next time he enters the UFC ring, MAGA 2024. And that was prior to the first clip I just showed you, where he celebrates Vice President Harris's rhetoric and public speeches and her responses and talks about how unprofessional and inconsistent and uneven Donald Trump's performances have been, and suggesting that he should hire people professionally to help him out. So I can't imagine how Trump's going to react to this. I also want to remind you of something that Patrick Bet David, a MAGA Trump supporter, what he recently had to say about this. We're not going to play the whole thing, but this is a guy who likes Rogan, who loves Trump, and he's also calling Trump out. Do not pick this stupid and unnecessary fight with the world's most popular podcaster at a time when you are losing this election.
MAGA and Trump community, I'm a little bit concerned, and there's a blind spot I want to bring up to you. What benefit do you get from calling out Joe Rogan for complimenting RFK? What benefit? What benefit do you get from saying, I wonder how people are going to boom at the next UFC fight when Joe Rogan walks in? Do you realize who are the only two names that have been constant the last 20 years in the UFC brand? One guy's name is Dana White, who is feared and respected. The other guy's name is Joe Rogan, who is loved, liked, and respected. You think UFC is going to flip on Joe because he complimented RFK on the vaccine position, that he fought Fauci and we wrote this book? You think they're going to do that? And why would you even call out Joe Rogan when Joe Rogan is friends with Dana and put Dana in a tough spot to have to defend you and Joe? Now, obviously, he's a pro, he's a boss, he's a street guy, he's dealt with everybody. He's not going to have a problem handling that. But do you think that's the right move? And it gets me to continue thinking about this and saying, while all this stuff is going on tonight, a lady named Kamala had a packed house in Arizona. You know who showed up? The same people that were not happy about what happened in 2022 midterms, 2 weeks before midterms, when Supreme Court flipped the Roe v. Wade abortion position and put it back on the states. And while everybody thought there was going to be a red wave, there was not a red wave. Got it.
And he goes on like that. We played, it was a subject of a previous video. Again, Patrick Bet David, 5 million YouTube subscribers on his valuetainment program. I think 2 or 3 million on his own PBD podcast, a guy who I think is kind of an idiot and certainly has terrible political takes, but is one of the biggest MAGA influencers in the world. And the broken clock is right twice a day because he just nailed it in that video, right? He wants Trump to win, but he's like, Trump, stop picking these stupid fights. Other MAGA influencers like Tim Pool, if you just do search for Rogan, he is publicly begging people not to pick fights with Joe Rogan. And that was prior to the clip that I just played for you. I can't imagine how Trump and MAGA are going to react to this, but hopefully they'll react as they have been, perhaps even worse. And those schisms and fractures within the MAGA movement will continue to exacerbate. Keep your fingers crossed. But yeah, the world's biggest podcaster, who is already predisposed to like Trump, is celebrating the vice president's performance, her speeches, her rhetoric, and publicly criticizing Trump's cognitive state and his ability to deliver speeches, and suggesting that Trump needs to hire professionals to make his speeches smoother and funnier. Ouch, that's got to sting. Donald, if you're watching, are you just going to let him talk to you that way? For the rest of you, let me know what you think in the comments.